Okay, so now that we have basic arbitrary function envelope control, I want to control it from the MIDI keyboard. So I'm going to do a few things here. I'm going to make some room. I'm going to put my portamento control over here and raise this up. It's not that. And work with a couple things. I'm also going to add amplitude or key velocity scaling, but I'm going to use a different way of scaling it. And I'm going to use sustain features on the envelope. So let's first see how we can trigger the envelope. I'm going to actually make a new way in from preset because I need some room to make the patch more understandable. So a couple things I need. I'm not going to use this aspect of MIDI amp. I'm going to do something a little bit different. So here's all my velocities are going to come in here, on and off. And I'm going to route that to a select object. It's going to look for zeros. Because what happens is a bang will start the envelope, a zero will send next. So what I need is it's going to be my start. I'm going to do a little bit so it's in order. So this is if it's not a zero. That's going to be any non-zero velocity that's an on. It's going to bang and start the envelope. Zero velocity is going to bang a next message. And that tells you, or tells function, to continue past its sustain point. You can have multiple sustain points, so you can have multiple next statements in your envelope. But so I need a message, and it just says next. And that's also going to go in there, and that's when it's zero. So these are crossed because these are my non-zeros, anything that doesn't match my argument. And this is when I get a zero, and that's the end. Going to use a send and receive to make this all, let's just say all vel for velocities. And receive all vel for velocities here. Okay. So if nothing else, this should start and stop. Let's get rid of this. I'll lock the patch because then it responds. And don't have to use all of it. So it should go on. It doesn't have a sustain right now. And all velocities. That one came, that would, so, oh, that triggered the envelope again because the next, I didn't put a sustain. So let's command click. Made a mistake. So you heard it twice. When I let go, since there was no sustain, it just re-triggered the envelope. So let's command click on. And I now have a sustain point. And it's over. Could make a little bit of a hold. This is a kind of old analog synth feature of some sense, that it would hold the attack for a little bit before doing the initial decay. For a little bit more punch. All right. And I'm going to make that my new one. So it's there. And now I said I was going to do some scaling to scale amplitude. So I need my node on velocities for scaling. Let's unlock. And kind of condensing in here so I can get some stuff around. And I should, this is my function 1, I should Shift Command S and save it as BasicSynthFunction2, just so you have it. Now, scaling amplitude. So this is going to come over, and it's going to be, after my line, I'm going to scale the whole line according to the key velocity. So first thing I need is I need to do the scaling. So velocity, my on velocities are here, and I'm going to just can do a send on velocity. And over here, I'm going to do my scaling. So I'm going to receive on velocity. I'm going to scale it. But now I'm going to scale my 0 to 127 using a dB scale. Since dB is logarithmic and that's how we perceive amplitude to loudness, I need to say what my softest value would be. Let's say it's going to be negative 70 dB and make that a float. And then what my loudest velocity would represent, which is 0 dB, full. So it's going to go from minus 70 to 0 in dB. And I'll take a float so I can see it. And now if I do this, you can see that 125 was a minus 1.102. 0 being unity, anything minus will be below that. So 66 is a minus 33. It's not doing anything yet. It's just happening. So I'm going to run this through one of Max's many conversion objects, dB to A, which is amplitude, dB to amplitude converter. And I'm going to send that value, let's take a look at it, and send that to another object over here. Let's get rid of this patch cord. So the line's going to go into an audio rate multiply. And let's do that. There we go. The linear amplitude is going to be the scaling argument, and this is going to now go over here. Do that. And one thing, and so this should. And I'm getting a more sensitive velocity scaling because here's my low velocity node. And you can barely hear it. Something in the middle, something full on. So it's a more expressive range. So go through. One thing to just be useful, and I should have showed you this in the first one, but I'll add it in now, which is a message object. I'm going to expand it out. And you're going to see let's go that way. Oh, it wants to go underneath. Okay, we'll just let it do that for now. So now when you see it, that's all the points in line format. First up to the sustain, and then when I release the sustain, it goes to 0 over this many milliseconds. So that's what it's sending into line. You should go through. Scaling the velocity, I can store these amplitudes and domains. Let's make another amplitude here. Let's we just change this to a sustain point and restore this. And you see, because it has a lot of message points, the message object gets bigger when it needs to. Back to my first one. Second. All right. So on velocity is being scaled to a dB scale, which is more close to what we hear, gives us a more expressive range. That's being converted to linear amplitude multiplied by the output of the line object. So it's an audio rate multiplication, and that is scaling my entire amplitude. So I have a function envelope that I can do anything I want with. I have envelope scaling in dB and an arbitrary envelope of whatever I want. All right, so cool. Saving that, and that's the end of this one.